It's not really a new way, but this is how I would want to teach my apprentices to make it a bit easier to learn the deductive way of reasoning and planning. Deductive meaning from the bigger site to the smallest detail. For example, when we start with letter A, or the architectural planning and design, architectural plan and design, I would like them to start with a bigger picture first, alright? So what do I let them do first? Let's take the abbreviations SFA. First, I would let them do under letter S. This is the site analysis, okay? And then F would be floor plans, where you see the building. And then E will be the exteriors, or the actual design of the shell. Then lastly will be the interiors. Provided that the layout is already in the floor plans, these are more of the 3Ds. How is this a deductive way? Well, for example, in the site analysis, the first thing that I will let them do is to project the setback of the lot. So whether you're in top view, you can already see your developmental controls. And then, after getting the setback, you also need to know the slope of the site. So what if this property is going downwards? Knowing the site analysis will better prepare you for costing during the floor planning stage. These are the space planning. I would just put them into 2-letter A's. A may be for the areas, so what areas do you need in your floor plan, and the accessibility. So this can also be done during the bubble diagrams, okay? From here to here, these are related, these are private spaces, and whatnot. And only if these are approved, then I would let them proceed with the exteriors. Maybe I'd call them the letter S again. S for the shell, and another S for the shade. Because you already have your final output on the space, now you would like to see how you can do the exterior cladding. So let's say, for example, this is second floor and this is the first floor, and I also have my side setbacks and slopes. Now I would like to decorate with a shell. The shell maybe comprises of the doors and the openings and the windows, if they are aligned. And then my shade will be like my roofings, for example, my ledges, my canopies, and stuff like that. I could also consider vertical shading or cladding, so that if I remove the shade, I could just see the basic shell. This is the one that I can easily process in the permits, as the shade may still change over time, whether it's the material or color, during the architectural planning and design. However, the shell could already be calculated, let's say, during the structural stage. Now, of course, floor plans should also already consider the column locations that you would like to have your engineer analyzed. For the interior, I will just go to layout, LL, okay? Layout of utilities, layout of electrical, that's lighting and power, light and power, and layout of plumbing. These are the water and sewer. So why do I say layout? If this is your floor plan, I would like to already see maybe the fixture location. Let's say for the first floor, I would already like to see my lighting here. This is very related with interior design, because interior design is not just putting furniture, kitchens and tables, stuff like that. You have to also consider the outlet, yung saksakan, and then you also have to consider, let's say, your fixture for your plumbing. So if it's still in the interior, it's still okay, because I could plan this on and develop them towards the blueprints. What's most important is ma-approve na agad. If the lighting here is a pendant lighting or a chandelier, then I have to know immediately so I could update the costing And I could update the blueprints also properly. Okay, so utilities. We can make this, okay, maybe F and F for fixture. Fixture of electrical and fixture of plumbing. So these are my toilet and bath. These are my yeah, showers, stuff like that. And also, if I have a carpentry works, let's say over here, I have a finishing wall, then I know if there's a switch or there's an outlet there. And then once all of these are approved, then we go to the second stage of the design services. This is everything I need to be able to start the development of the design, which I call letter B, which is also a deductive reasoning. So I start with the abbreviation called ASSET. This is architectural because architectural is the biggest or most general thing that encompasses the whole design. Structural, or the strength of the building. Electrical, and then plumbing, or the sanitary. Okay, so I get this set. Check, check, check. This architectural is basically the whole thing, and they will be translated into B for blueprints, meaning to say our renders are not enough. Our renders have to be developed to have some dimensions, to have connection details, to have specifications, to have some costing as well. Because when we're going to go to the part C, which is the permit stage, we need to put costing as well. Our structural will have our framing details, so how the beams are laid out, the roof are laid out, basically the skeleton of the building, and also anything that's related to civil works or structural works. So our concrete, we can also lay out parts of the catch basin there. If you don't like, if it's more towards the piping method, then it will be in plumbing. But if it's like bigger civil work, I'll put them in structural, such as the details of the, let's say, the whole canal surrounding the fence, stuff like that. So this can also be related to fencing details and retaining walls. Now in the electricals, since I already have the location of lighting and power, I have to detail them. Okay, so I have the layout and I have the detail. That's when I add circuit lines, put the circuit number, 1, 2, 3, 4, the switches and the type of switches, the specification, and most probably the costing as well. This should not proceed unless these are finished, or else if you change anything here, then you have to change anything also. And this takes a lot of time, and we ask help from our draftsmen here for the drawings. Also our allied professionals, our interior designers, our engineers as well. So I could add here, part of architectural can be the interior, architectural interiors, or we can outsource and service into the ID, or the interior designer, which details it further without really moving our structural walls shell. They can add a finishing wall. If this is the wall, they can add a double wall or a drywall, cladding, stuff like that. It'll all be detailed here with interior elevations as well, specifications, dimensions, so on and so forth. So these comprise the blueprint. Okay, now only after these are finished, then we go to letter C. I'll just make it so that it will become letter C. Construction permits. Based on the blueprint, all of these things, it will be analyzed, and we're going to pay professional fees of those involved here. So you can make this blueprints and analysis. Or if you want to separate the analysis and make it part of the permits, then it will be part of the building permit. So let's say, for example, our site development, remember it's deductive from the biggest to the smallest detail. The first thing will be the zoning, of course, that is your site context. If this is your property, what's the road, what are the surrounding things, and what's the zone? Is it residential, R1, R2? And then you have to comply with that. So this actually is part of the site analysis. And everything that's there we'll go to your zoning permit. Second thing will be your fire clearances. Like example, that's 3 stories. Did you consider the number of exits or the ladder? Or did you consider the emergency lamps, as well as smoke detectors or fire extinguishers? Okay. Then third will be the main thing we'll be paying is the building permit. Now the building permit, we have, remember, ASAP, architectural, structural, electrical, and plumbing. So they have their own permits. Some unify this one. So that's where they will sign. This is where you can also charge professional fees if you do not include it in the blueprints, so that it will be easier, especially if they chose to outsource these professionals. Malay mo may kilala pa lang professional electrical engineer yung client, and he wants to be done to have this signed separately, then it's okay, as long as it complies with the code and the blueprints. Now in the building permit, the one that will be most liable for full-time supervision, okay, is either the architect, civil engineer, or a 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗽𝗽𝗶 licensed contractor. This is why I charge separate from the architect of record or the designer. These assets are usually designers, that's why. And then there's a separate sign for supervisors. Sometimes they sign as the supervisor as well, but there's an overall full-time supervisor. So if I am the one to supervise, then I can give a big discount. But if they want a different contractor, then I charge for my design fees or design supervision, which will be the last one. So aside from these construction permits, we have cases where not everything is a new building construction. So we also have like fencing permits, we have excavation permits, excavation bonds, we have extensions, we have renovations, so on and so forth. Now let's say construction already started. Letter D is the last one. I call it the design supervision. So if the construction already started, let's say this is the client talking to you as the architect, and then you have your own company here that actually builds, constructs, and have your own equipment, then you can offer the design and build. This is part of architectural services, and you do not need a 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗽𝗃 license for this, provided that you are building your design, okay, and you are the one in charge of full-time supervision. That is one. However, the client sometimes might question your integrity, or especially if you don't have a good name yet, or you're still starting, or you didn't have anything to prove or show yet. So she might opt for a contractor, which is a 𝗍𝗶𝗶𝗽𝗃 licensed contractor, to implement your design. Okay, now your job here is they will build a house. Your job is to supervise him regarding design only. But he will manage now his own tools, his own workers, and stuff like that. So how do you get compensated? Kasi parang kinuha nila lahat ng pera mo, di ba? Kasi the project was awarded to him. You can charge separately here. You can make it per visit. And you can make an agreement. Maybe you can visit 3 times a week, and then you can be paid every week. It's up to you. For me, I chose to be paid like an employee every 15th and 30th of the month, so that's 2 times a month, and then monthly. So if I get paid, let's say 40K monthly, and then I agreed to supervise every day for at least 2 hours, that's up to you. But if you say you will visit 2 times a week, and then you'll be paid, let's say 700 pesos per visit, then that will be times how many times in 1 month. Let's say there are 5 weeks in 1 month and you're gonna visit 10 times, then you can be paid 7,000 a month. So that's really up to you. Also, how long one visit will be, or consultations. Another way to do this is you can employ a construction supervision group, but in my case, I will call this the design supervision group, DSG. So that if I have apprentices, so it's not just me alone, the client can employ my whole office to supervise the design of the construction. We are not directly supervising the contractor, but we are checking and balancing his work. So our limitation is that we should not be meddling with the way he operates or leads his team, but we can check for safety. Okay, can check for permits, water connection, electrical connection. We can check if the blueprints are being followed. We can check the dimensions before they do buhos o bago sila magbuhos, before they put concrete towards the slab. We are going to check first and approve spacing of rebars. So it's basically quality assurance and quality control, so that at the end of this everything we can help apply for the occupancy permit, and then all the utilities, that is the lighting or the power and water connections, will be under the name of the client. And after the construction, still stay with the client to do some post-construction services to check. Can check for maintenance, for leakage and stuff like that that can be billed. But if you have your own, then that is a good way to separate your construction agreement. So construction agreement is another topic. What I showed you here today is a design agreement. It's A, B, C, and D, and that's how you can charge accordingly. So that's what I'm trying to teach my apprentices today, that we have a deductive reasoning when we are doing everything as a team. We look at the bigger picture first before going to the smaller details. I do not like you to start interior perspectives if we don't even have an assessment of the project. I don't want you to start designing the house like this immediately if you don't even know the slope of the road, because everything will change and it will affect the whole design, and you might have to redo everything, and nagsayang ka lang at naggastos ka lang ng pera. Hope you learned something today.